We go now to the White House and President Trump's national security advisor, Robert O'Brien. Good morning to you, Ambassador.
Good morning, Margaret. Great to be here.
If you look around the world right now, Brazil has a spiking rate of infection from COVID-19. The Southern Hemisphere is an area we know Dr. Fauci said he's very worried about. Are you going to cut off travel from the Southern Hemisphere?
You know, we're concerned about the people of the Southern Hemisphere and certainly the people of Brazil. They're having a rough go of it. We've had a rough go of it. And one of the things I want to say, and just as I prefaced to responding to that question, which is a great question, I want the American people to know how much the president cares about them and the 90 to 91,000 people that have been lost, parents, grandparents, friends, first responders, frontline workers in the healthcare industry. We mourn their loss. And as far as travel to Brazil goes, and I'm sorry for the long intro to that, I think that we'll have a 212F decision today with respect to Brazil, and just like we did with the UK and Europe and China, and we hope that'll be temporary. But because of the situation in Brazil, we're going to take every step necessary to protect the American people.
So that sounds like you are looking to cut off travel from Brazil and the Southern Hemisphere.
As of now, I'd say Brazil, and we'll take a look at the other countries on a country-by-country basis for sure, Margaret.
I know travel from Europe to this country wasn't restricted until mid-March, China earlier. National Security Council has been reportedly pushing for travel from Europe to be cut off earlier than it was. Do you regret not being more aggressive in that?
Well, one of the things we did, and I think, again, a story that has not been focused on enough is when we raised this issue really for the first time and really vehemently with President Trump on January 28th with respect to the China travel ban. Within 2 days, even though many of his advisors urged against it, the president made a hard decision and cut off travel from China within 2 days of learning that this was a serious outbreak. And that saved countless lives. What we didn't know at the time, and I, by the way, after cutting off travel from China, I called my counterparts, the other national security advisors in Europe, and urged them to take similar action. What we didn't realize is the Chinese would continue to allow folks to travel from Wuhan. Even though they'd cut off travel within China, they allowed those folks to travel from China to Europe and to seed the disease in Europe and then have it come through a back door into the United States. So look, in hindsight, perfect hindsight, when we realized the Europeans hadn't cut off travel, and when we realized, and we didn't know at the time, but we later learned that the Chinese allowed folks to continue to travel from Wuhan to Europe. Sure, it would have been better to cut it off early, but what I want to focus on are literally the hundreds of thousands or millions of lives that were saved because President Trump made a decision that was entirely courageous at a time when the IC and others did not believe that this was a serious health risk or even a global pandemic.